Welcome to Wildcat Science with Mrs. Haugo. This is biology in our evolution unit, part 1B. We're going to start out today talking about what is a species, because the definition of species and how speciation events and evolution occur are pretty interrelated, so let's start there. So, a population, I'm going to move myself, a population of individuals that can interbreed in nature to produce fertile offspring. So please write that down and let's talk about it. So you have a population of individuals, of plants, of animals, of fungi, and they can interbreed. So if they can't interbreed, they are not considered, they're considered two different species. And if they can, they're considered the same species. And they have to produce fertile offspring. For example, you can have a horse and a donkey and they will make a mule, but the mule can't have mule babies, so it is not considered a new species. So the horse is one species and the donkey is still another species. Let's take a look at some examples. Another example is an African fish eagle and a bald eagle. They look quite similar, but they are different species because they do not interbreed. So obviously they live in different areas, because African fish eagle, I assume, lives in Africa, and bald eagle we find in North America. And if you put them together, they wouldn't interbreed and make offspring. Another example of things that look very different but are the same species would be dogs. So dogs are all the same species, even though all the different dog breeds look very different from each other. Another important question is, what is evolution? Evolution is any change in heritable traits within a population across generations. So write that down and then let's talk about it. So, heritable traits we know are the traits that can be passed down and based on genes, and then within a population. So within a population is a group of one species living in an area, and this is through time. Individuals do not evolve. I do not evolve. Like an individual monkey or frog does not evolve. It's the population that evolves, so it has to happen through time. So let's say we have a population of frogs, and there is maybe like some birds that eat the lighter colored frogs, so that one frog that is not well adapted to the environment, so it's a lighter colored frog, is going to get eaten, and then it's not going to pass its genes on. So that one frog isn't going to evolve and become darker, but there will be more darker frogs that survive and pass on their genes. So in the next generation, the population of frogs will have darker pigment in their skin. So it's the heritable traits change in a population across generations or time. Another way of saying that is there are changes in allele frequencies in a population over time. So if we remember, allele frequencies alleles are the different traits of a gene. So the allele frequency is how often a certain type or flavor or category of that gene shows up in a population. So if we use our frog examples, we have like a light colored frog skin allele and a dark colored frog skin allele. And so if the birds are getting the light colored frogs, then fewer of those are going to have babies and more of the dark colored frogs are going to have babies. So the allele for the dark colored frog skin is going to become more populated. It's going to become more frequent in the population. So then that population has evolved. None of the individual frogs have. Another way of talking about evolution is the process by which all organisms have formed from older forms of life. So how eukaryotes evolved from prokaryotes, so organisms with a nucleus evolved from things without a nucleus. How plants evolved from simpler plants, and we'll get into that more as we go along. So in class, we're going to watch a video that does a good job of explaining that. Okay, almost as important as what is evolution is what is not evolution. This is one of the most misunderstood concepts in biology, so I'm hoping you come away with a good understanding. So again, individuals do not evolve, populations evolve over time, like over generations. So an individual either survives or does not survive. They don't evolve. And then they either pass on their genes or they don't pass on their genes. And their genes either become more common or less common in the population over time. Okay, another common misconception is that humans evolved from chimpanzees or from monkeys. We did not. So anybody who's like, oh, humans didn't evolve from monkeys is showing that they don't fully understand the idea of evolution. So let's kind of talk about that to make sure that you do understand what evolution is and what evolution is not. So kind of saying that humans evolved from chimpanzees, we humans and chimpanzees are evolutionary cousins. So that would say that like you evolved from your cousin or you came from your cousin, which isn't true. Like you didn't evolve from your cousin didn't give birth to you. You and your cousin are related because you share grandparents. So in the same way, humans and chimpanzees are related because they share a common ancestor. So you have to go back 6 million years before you find this common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees. And in those past 6 million years, humans have been evolving and changing, and chimpanzees have been evolving and changing. So 6 million years ago, there was neither a human nor a chimpanzee, and humans don't go from chimpanzees, they go from this common ancestor 6 million years ago, and chimpanzees have changed for 6 million years, and humans have changed for 6 million years. Let's see if we can get both my hands in there. Okay. Chimpanzees and humans. Okay, again, humans did not evolve from chimpanzees, just like your cousin didn't give birth to you. You and your cousin are related because you share a grandparent. Humans and chimpanzees are related because they share a common ancestor. And humans, in those 6 million years, there was a lot of evolution that had occurred. Humans, Homo sapiens, have been around for about 300,000 years. And we're going to look at some diagrams that'll help clarify this. Okay, another important concept is that trees are not ladders. Trees and ladders are different things. So please write this down. Evolutionary diagrams are trees where each branch shows how organisms have been changing over time. And we're going to look at some examples and some diagrams for that. All right, so again, trees are not ladders. Here would be, this is coming from Aristotle, one of the ancient Greeks, an idea of a ladder where you kind of evolve as you go up, and that has given us some misconceptions, but evolution works like a tree, not a ladder. So at each point, at each branch in the tree, there is a speciation event where one population can no longer interbreed with another population. And then these lines mean time has passed and those organisms, those populations have been evolving and changing. So the longer the line is between two of them, that means the longer they've been changing separately and probably the more different they are from each other. So again, it would be wrong to say, oh, well, change this evolutionary tree, also called a phylogenetic tree, into a ladder where A evolves into B, evolves into C, evolves into D. That doesn't happen. So there was a speciation event, this organism, this population changed this way, and this population changed this way. So again, just saying this is like more advanced or better than this is not true. All right, so let's look at some examples. You go back millions of years and there was a speciation event where moss or non-vascular plants, there was a population of non-vascular plants, and they have evolved into modern day mosses, and then another population changed, they could no longer interbreed, and changed and developed vascular tissue. So like ferns, pine, and rose. And then there was another evolutionary event, and ferns have spores, whereas this population changed and developed seeds. And then there was another evolutionary event, and this population could no longer interbreed with this population, and over millions of years we got modern pine trees, and those have like pine cones and naked seeds, whereas this population evolved and they have flowers. But that's not saying we have to write it this way. We could write it this way, and then you could say modern day mosses, for what they are, they're really evolved, they're really well suited for their environments. So being well suited for environment means you're evolved. So you could write it this way and say mosses are very highly evolved. So let's look at some misconceptions about humans. So here is an evolutionary tree with great apes and humans on it. And some misconceptions are to say that humans evolved from chimpanzees, and as we know, that's not true. There was a common ancestor, and they at one point could no longer interbreed, and then after 6 million years we have modern humans, and after 6 million years we have modern chimpanzees. It doesn't necessarily mean that humans are more evolved than gorillas or chimpanzees. A chimpanzee or a gorilla could argue that they are more suited for their environment. And indeed, if I was alone in a forest with an angry gorilla, it would rip me apart. I am no match for a single gorilla, hand to hand. So in that instance, gorillas are more evolved and more suited for their environments. Here is a diagram for an evolutionary tree of primates, and primates are mammals that have characteristics in common with each other, like they have hair instead of fur. They tend to have a high brain to body ratio, so they have high intelligence. They have prehensile fingers, so they can grasp things. They don't have claws, they tend to have fingernails. They have padded digits, so they have fingerprints, stuff like that. And that includes monkeys and apes. And apes are different than monkeys. Apes they have bigger bodies. Apes don't have tails, whereas monkeys have tails. Apes have even a larger brain to body ratio than monkeys do. And so they tend to be more intelligent and they live longer. So we have, showing this evolutionary tree, we have about 40 million years ago, we have old and new world monkeys kind of split apart. So new world monkeys have this prehensile, this tail that they can grab things with, and they live in the Americas and have been evolving separately from the old world monkeys, which live kind of like in Asia and Africa. And then from there, populations have evolved, and we have like siamang and gibbons, and they've been evolving for about 20 million years. And then, like we know, not all of the evolutionary branches make it to the modern day. So there are little shoot-offs that we have fossils for that went extinct. So they were changing, but that population didn't make it, they went extinct. And so let's kind of look through the rest of these and talk about those in class. I will see you then.